What do you say to those, especially in Washington, who continue to question the legitimacy of your current partnerships, particularly with Russia? And how do you intend to defend Burkina Faso's image on the international stage in the face of this kind of rhetoric?
Is that he tried to step down in order for there to be an election. The people went out in protests. They went out in the streets and protests. We don't want you stepping down.
So he's trying to take the good route. He's like, I'm trying to do this democratic shit. Y'all go ahead and vote. I'm gonna step down so y'all can do the voting thing. And they're like,
no,
nah.
They refused.
So in today's video, we're gonna talk about Ibrahim Traoré. Of course, it's all about African revolution, right? And that means that in most of my videos, the word Ibrahim Traoré will never miss. This guy, remember when he left for Moscow? Imagine there was a group of terrorists that had gathered around and they wanted to overthrow his government. But guess what? When Ibrahim Traoré came in, he actually created a new army, and he's in the process of creating the new, not really like army, but military. And that being said, I want us to listen to these videos, and then after that, we come back and do a thorough analysis. So without further much ado, let us jump in to the videos.
We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us. It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work. Our responsibility is to charter a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity and charity of European taxpayers. By now, we should be able to finance our basic needs ourselves. And if we're going to look at the next 60 years as a period of transition, a period whereby we can stand on our own feet, our perspective has not to be what the French taxpayer decides to do with whatever surplus.
Breaking news. 3 days ago, Burkina Faso was attacked by over 1,000 men who wanted to overthrow Ibrahim Traoré's government. Well, now we know where those men came from and who sent them. Now, they were waiting for Ibrahim Traoré to travel to Russia so they can attack. But here's the thing. President Ibrahim Traoré already knew what was going to happen. You see, Russia, China and North Korea had facilitated military support to Burkina Faso, and some of the technology they sent over were military-grade drones. So, President Ibrahim Traoré was spying on these people even before they attacked. So he already knew what they were planning to do. In the surveillance that Ibrahim Traoré was watching them with, he saw they had many weapons, they had many vehicles. Their intentions were not just to unalive President Ibrahim Traoré, but also the people who support him. So this was a very serious issue to him. Ibrahim Traoré would ambush them, surround them and take them out. He would find multiple phones, multiple vehicles, multiple weapons that they had and were ready to use. Now, where were all these people coming from? Well, they were from the Ivory Coast. And if you're not surprised, I know why. Because the president of the Ivory Coast has been working hand in hand with the American and the French to try and dethrone or even unalive President Ibrahim Traoré. What do you think President Ibrahim Traoré should do next? Because the Ivory Coast doesn't seem like they will stop doing this anytime soon.
We have some major breaking news coming from Burkina Faso. So it is now turning out that the Western countries, the NATO, were doing all the things to ensure that Ibrahim Traoré does not go to Moscow. They tried everything to ensure that Ibrahim Traoré will not attend the military parade that was happening in Russia, Moscow. And so these terrorists were planning to attack on that very day when Traoré was traveling to Moscow. But you know, the government of Ibrahim Traoré was able to know that this was happening, and they sent their drones which took 1,000 men who are terrorists, and the ones who remained ran to Ivory Coast. It is now turning out that all these things are now coming out, that they knew if Ibrahim Traoré went to Moscow, his influence in Africa will become so big that they will not be able to take him down. And you know now Ibrahim Traoré has come from Moscow with a lot of fire. There will be a lot of scholarship. Many Burkinabe people will be going to Russia to study on how to manufacture so many things. And this is now threatening the West because they know that the people in Africa are no longer sleeping. They are now using their head. They are now seeing the truth, and they are now knowing that the Western nations have been exploiting them for a very long time, and enough is enough.
What do you say to those, especially in Washington, who continue to question the legitimacy of your current partnerships, particularly with Russia? And how do you intend to defend Burkina Faso's image on the international stage in the face of this kind of rhetoric?
In any case, we are free to establish relations with whomever we choose. That is what independence means. So on this matter, they can continue to think whatever they want. As for us, we will go wherever we want, as long as the partnership can, in any case, be mutually beneficial for both parties. Regarding those remarks, as you mentioned, we protested through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That was one thing. But I don't know what happened with that general. There is still a problem. And I would perhaps like him to admit his mistake if he was sent, and to understand that this was not the right mission. If he was misled, he should say so publicly, or otherwise admit before the Senate that he was mistaken. Or also, if it was done with bad intentions, well, we will confront him as we should, because everything he said is a lie. And it's really shameful to see an adult lie, to see an adult, a general officer of a great army lie. This is very serious. First of all, he talked about Burkina's gold being used for what? For us, to protect ourselves and all that. First, it's Burkina's gold, it's not his gold. That's the first thing. What business is it of his? It's none of his business. It's Burkina's gold. It doesn't concern him. Second thing, he's lying. Because Burkina never had any gold reserves until we came. We were the ones who started setting aside gold in the treasury of Burkina Faso. Otherwise, there wasn't a single gram of gold reserves in Burkina. So that means he's a liar, again. And another thing, when he says that, we use it to protect ourselves and all that. We're free. If the people have decided that we should govern them, we have a duty to protect ourselves. So we are free. What business is it of his? And the part that hurt me the most, not because he's a general or because he's American or anything like that, but because he's black. And it really hurts to see a black man being used to fight against another black man. And this didn't start just now. It has to stop. You see, it's very dangerous. Even Libya, who destroyed Libya, once again they used a black man. In movies, back in the day, in America, black people always played the bad guy. We told ourselves, it's just in the movies. But why do black people have to keep playing the bad guy? And I think that if he heard this interview, he should look at himself in the mirror, feel ashamed, come out and say, well, I was given a false report. I regret it. He needs to say it publicly. If it was a false report, then it was made, because it's possible. It's possible that he was given a false report, that he should come out with it, because as you saw, when I take another neighbor, again, as I say among us, Black, the Ivorian Minister of Defense, who goes around, travels to Turkey, meets the Turkish Minister of Defense, and tells him, you shouldn't sell us weapons. You see how much that hurts. When it's a black person who behaves like that, it really hurts. Did we make a false report? Let him come out and deny it. If he was sent to create a problem in Burkina, as they are used to doing, well, we'll get ready. We'll be waiting for them. Because this has to stop now. The black race should not be used to fight against black people. Every time it's the same thing. It's always the same. And that's what we deplore. And it really hurt us to see that it was a black person making these statements. It's true that they may regret it through various channels. They're trying to make up for it. Now that it was said publicly, it needs to be made right publicly. That's how it is for us. We're no longer engaging in diplomatic hypocrisy, as we like to say. Saying things loudly and clearly. And then coming back later to say, no, we're sorry, we didn't mean it. That's not enough. It needs to be said publicly. So I invite them to make amends, to say it publicly, because African youth have understood. Black youth around the world have understood. This kind of manipulation doesn't work anymore. That's how it's always been, using false pretexts in hopes of achieving other goals. That doesn't work anymore. So it's unfortunate, but Burkina Faso is staying true to its path. We will continue to develop. And he forgot to mention everything we are doing for Burkina Faso. What we are doing, no other regime has accomplished. That's it, the socio-economic development of Burkina Faso, who has done, look, we are building many health centers, equipping them with medical devices for examinations, and lowering the costs of medical tests. Which regime has done the same? No one. We are taking action in agriculture, plowing farmers' fields for free. Our production is increasing and everything. Who has done that? No one. The army. We are creating a new army, and the Burkinabe army has never been as well staffed and equipped as it is now. Who has done that? No regime. When it comes to employment, no regime has created as many jobs as we have. Industrialization. Maybe that's what bothers them. That's what they want to stop. So they have to make up Westerners. Through communication, they managed to rewrite history. And with African history as well, they schemed everything to, spread lies. And as a result, some young Africans don't even know the history of Africa, what Africa has accomplished. Some don't even know that our grandparents fought, were put on the front lines as cannon fodder. And when they returned, they were killed like animals. Do people know that when France tested its first atomic bomb, it was black soldiers they placed nearby within the blast radius to see what would happen? Let's bring out the archives. Everything they've used against Africa has been documented. So all of this needs to be communicated so that young Africans understand, because there are still many who are asleep and continue to speak on behalf of the imperialists. They say what they're told to say, maybe because they're given something in return, I don't know. But Africans need to understand their history and wake up. So that's our fight as well.
In your opinion, what is the role of the media in this struggle? Independent media.
From our countries, you mean? The media should contribute a lot to our ideas. But as you can see, even among our own media, there are some that are imperialist media. They only react when European media say something, then they repeat, move it and amplify it. There are plenty of media outlets in our countries that even fight against regimes like ours. They also spend their time repeating the same nonsense that Western media spread. But it's shameful. If Africans behave like that, it's truly shameful. I imagine they must be ashamed to look at themselves in the mirror at night. If you're paid to spread lies about black people, that's very serious. So we are raising awareness in Burkina Faso. If you look right now, many media outlets are supporting the movement, helping to raise awareness among young people through debates and so on. So that's really what we want for the media.
Do you think our media can also play its part in this struggle?
Of course, very much so. You have to play a very important role because, I said it in 2023, in St. Petersburg, and I'll say it again today, Russia helped save the world. Africa helped save the world. That needs to be said. Young people need to understand that all those stories told in Hollywood movies and so on, they're false. It's nothing but lies. It's the same thing. The Vietnam War. Today, you see, history is distorted, but we need to communicate. You see, they don't like it when I speak. They think I talk too much and all that. They want me to keep quiet so that they can speak and their version gets through. No. My biggest regret is having spent a good part of my youth listening to radio stations like RFI and France 24. I've been in countries where these radio stations were shut down, but we would use apps, record their news broadcasts just to listen to them. But at a certain point, something clicked, and I started to realize that they were conditioning our minds to accept what they wanted. It's their narrative. They want us to learn. And since then, I've started to see things for what they are. And I understood that what they're doing is very dangerous. And today, more than ever, I realize that they have conditioned the minds, especially of Africans. So you can do a lot to awaken the consciousness of young people, so that people understand how the world works and don't let themselves be led astray by those people.
This is why I will never stop using this my platform to advocate for this young man. Attention, please.
These so-called Democrats need to understand this. When thousands of Nigerians died in their hospital beds due to lack of electricity or lack of medicine, it is a crime. They are responsible for these sanctions. They are responsible for these deaths. The same thing is happening in Mali. With Burkina, we have indirect sanctions because people need to understand. When they understand, there are instructions from the other side. They come, they do everything to apply it. It's shameful. Some have decided not to supply electricity to our countries. It's not free, we pay for it. And it contributes to their economy. They try to make Mali suffer. And of course, by ignoring all the agreements and no longer providing electricity to Mali, hoping that the population would revolt. It doesn't work. When it lasted, some were forced to make their own people pay by increasing the cost of electricity. It will increase again. This gives us several lessons. Several lessons in the sense that the independence we take, the sovereignty we take, we must do everything to ensure it. They have given us very good lessons, and we have understood them very well.
right, you guys have heard it, right? You see, I must be very honest with you. I am the type of person that embraces good things. Good things always turn me on. And that is why I can never stop using this my platform to speak for this young man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. This man is one in a million. I am telling you. Do well by sharing this video. Please make every other person see him. You heard exactly what he said about Nigeria and Mali. And you can trust me when I tell you that everything that Captain Ibrahim Traoré has stated on that of his speech is absolutely very correct. I don't know why our leaders have decided to be punishing their masses with electricity. A common electricity. Come on, I call it common because it's common. Travel to every part of the world. It is common. It is common. Nobody is talking about electricity no more. You know, and Nigeria is still there battling with electricity. It's a big time shame. It is a shame. If they say they know they travel outside the country, it could have been a different case. But they do travel 247. Anyways, I'm going to end this video here. Don't forget to let me know exactly what you think in the comment section. And share this video, please. Make every other person see it. God bless you. Peace.
Or think about the Sahel region. One of the poorest, yes, yet fastest growing demographically. The succession of military coups will make the region more unstable for years ahead. Russia is both influencing and benefiting from the crisis, and the region has become fertile ground to the rise of terrorism. This is of direct concern for Europe, for our security and our prosperity, so we need to show the same unity of purpose towards Africa as we have shown towards Ukraine. This is a must. We need to focus on cooperation with legitimate governments and regional organizations. We need to develop a mutually beneficial partnership which focuses on common issues for Europe and Africa. And this is why, together with HRVP Borrell, we will work on a new strategic approach to take forward at the next EU-AU summit. Honourable members, history is on the move. Russia is waging a full-scale war against the founding principles of the UN Charter. This has raised immense concerns in countries from Central Asia to the Indo-Pacific. They are worried that in a lawless world, they might face the same fate as Ukraine. We see a clear attempt by some to return to bloc thinking, trying to isolate and influence countries in between. And it comes at a time when there is a deeper unease by many emerging economies about the way institutions and globalization work for them. These concerns are legitimate. These emerging economies, with its people and natural assets, are essential allies in building a cleaner, safer, and more prosperous world. So Europe will always work with them to reform and improve the international system. We want to lead efforts to make the rules-based order fairer and make distribution more equal. This will also mean working with new and old partners to deepen our connections. And here, Europe's offer with Global Gateway is unique. Global Gateway is more transparent, more...
But ultimately, I think that Africa needs to learn from China, from Korea, from Iran, and from Russia, who first had these beautiful revolutions that commanded the respect. Then they developed their militaries, they developed nuclear bombs, they developed all these sorts of things, and then they built their economies. We're sitting here and we're talking about being in the United Nations, having a rotating seat in the United Nations Security Council. We're talking about the economic plans of Africa in the future, new currencies, African Union. All of that doesn't mean a whole lot if the West is going to come in and trample all over you. What good is a seat at the United Nations if they're not going to listen to you? The United States has to listen to China. They have to listen to Russia because China and Russia have a bunch of nuclear bombs that are already pointed at every Western city. Now, of course, I support Africa having nuclear bombs. I understand we're far away from that, and maybe it's a bit controversial to say that. But what I think we also need to understand is that Africans are dealing with this. I think the West needs to get very worried about the potential for Africa to assert its own sovereignty and command respect in the same way that we're seeing in the new Confederation states, but all across Africa. And maybe it only starts with one or two nations, but that's exactly what we saw with Iran and Syria. And now look at the United States proxy of Israel. Israel's collapsing all across the region. So I think the question of military power is extremely important, and it actually comes before the question of economic power or trade routes or currencies or any of these things. So I hope to see more bold leadership, even in the case of Niger. Victoria Nuland was too afraid to tell Nigeria to invade Niger because she understood the military power of these Sahel states with the backing of Russia. They wanted to do an ECOWAS invasion, and with the intervention of Russia and China and the military backing in the Sahel states, they understood in the United States that this was a no-go, that they couldn't do it. So I hope in my lifetime, I'll end here, that we'll see a nuclear Africa. We're already seeing Russia. Rosatom is talking about bringing nuclear reactors into Burkina Faso, but I hope one day it's nuclear bombs.
There we have it. That has been our candid speech for today.
Yes! Russia is not protecting Traoré for nothing. It is said that there is no free meal, even in Freetown. So, why is Russia helping Ibrahim Traoré? What is Russia getting in return? Is Burkina Faso moving from one slave master to another? This video will provide answer to all these questions. Welcome to Jumbo TV. Russia has been fully in support of Ibrahim Traoré since the beginning of his administration. So it is normal to conclude that Russia is in for something. But before I go further, let me quickly remind you that it is not only Russia who is willing to protect Ibrahim Traoré. Russia is not protecting Traoré for nothing. But that thing is not his gold, and is definitely not any of the Burkina Faso's resources. No, Russia will support anything that will financially weaken America, France, and British influence. If they can stop the West from stealing from Africa, then America, France, and Britain will go broke. This is a global war, and Africa is the bone of contention. So, if you are a content creator and you wish to support Ibrahim Traoré, kindly add his picture to any of your contents, even if it's not about him. And if you're not a content creator, kindly share this video. Let the whole world see.
What people don't know is that he tried to step down in order for there to be an election. The people went out in protests. They went out in the streets and protest. We don't want you stepping down.
So he's trying to take the good route. He's like, I'm trying to do this democratic shit. Y'all go ahead and vote. I'm gonna step down so y'all can do the voting thing. And they're like,
no,
nah.
They refused.
They're like, nah, don't step down, because then you're gonna leave a window open for some fuck shit. We're not trying to have.
They
no
refused.
More fuck shit.
So they refused. They took to the streets to make sure that he stays in power. He already announced in 2029 there will be an election. But you got to realize there's so much turmoil and chaos going on in different regions of the country that they need some type of stabilization in order for there to actually be elections.
I really hope that you listened to the entire clips or series of clips that we played over here, because it plays a major role in what we are going to analyze here at the moment. So there are these couple of interviews that Ibrahim Traoré appeared in, and all the questions that we have all been talking about, he was asked, like, what can you say about what came out in America by General Langley? And of course, just like us, he was so sad that a fellow black man was used to want to fight another black man, which of course to us it actually appeared very artful, extremely bad, because, you know, even if you listen to our radios most of the time, not really like here in Africa, but you know, if you listen to these international media stations or probably TV station, any communication channel, what they do is they try to condition us to do what they want. They try to pass a message, a propaganda, to make us believe things that are not even existing. For instance, the message that was put out by General Langley, that the gold that is being mined in Burkina Faso is being used by Ibrahim Traoré for his own good, which is a total lie, propaganda, to make the people, to make the Burkinabes and the Africans to believe that Ibrahim Traoré is not a good person, leader. Yet, in real sense, is an extremely good leader that really cares for his own people. You see, look at the gold mine reserves. In the past, before Ibrahim Traoré regime, when gold was mined, it was being reserved abroad in France. But since he came into power, you know, he actually constructed the first ever gold reserve. So after they mine, they actually take it to a gold reserve in Burkina Faso. Is that not a great development? It is indeed. Look at the factories, look at the schools and the jobs. The job actually, it has increased. Like, you cannot find a Burkinabe youth like idling here and there. Okay, I will say probably there are a few, of course, because in this world we have those that are active and working, and we have the lazy ones. So for me, I will say if you are a Burkinabe youth and you are idle, then you are lazy, because when you listen to the interview that Ibrahim Traoré appeared in a couple of days ago, he said that actually job opportunities have increased massively. Look at the roads, they're being constructed by the youths of Burkina Faso. And now what has happened is that Russia and Burkina Faso, they have an agreement that the Burkinabe people go to Russia and they learn manufacturing skills. Isn't that a great idea? Isn't that a great collaboration? They go learn the skills of how to manufacture, they come back and, you know, do the manufacturing themselves. Look at China at the moment. They're the biggest manufacturers in this world. And 50 years ago, China was just like Africa, you know. And that is why there is this guy, a white guy, that came out and said, you know, if actually Africa wants to be this big in terms of development, in terms of wealth, you know, they can actually do that, because first, you start by creating a military that supports you like 100%. And once you have trust in your military, you now start the development path. And that's how you get into power. That's how you get to depend in yourself. And, you know, I listened to a clip by the president of Ghana. And for him, it was all talks, but we never see him talking about this African revolution, because for him, is this guy that is like, you know, some of his government departments are being funded by Europe, and it's not really good, because, you know, they need to fund themselves. The taxes need to fund each and every department in the country. And by doing that, you'll not have anybody controlling you. Honestly, you will not have anyone controlling you. Remember, Ibrahim Traoré told us, whoever feeds you controls you. I mean, that is one of the biggest wise thing that I have ever listened to from, you know, anybody in this, okay, especially in this case from Ibrahim Traoré. And for him, how did he realize about the West wanting the Africans to do what they want? Just by listening to France 24 programming. They used to program Africans to do like conditioning them. You know, that's what they used to do. And there was a summit between the AU and the EU, European Union, and the African Union. And as I listened to that particular summit, you know, these people, the representatives, they were like, you know, the reason as to why Russia is in Burkina Faso, because I understand they are really supporting them since, especially this military coup that happened in 22. Russia has been with Burkina Faso from the word go. And now the AU and the African Union, they feel threatened. They want them out. And they're telling people that the only way that Burkina Faso is going to prosper is by working with Europe. And that Russia, on the other hand, they're not doing well, because in some few years to come, they're going to get themselves into a big problem. So I don't understand which kind of a problem were they talking about, you know. Anyway, Ibrahim Traoré talked about friendship, and is like, at this point, you know, we are entitled to be friends with who we want to be friends with. It's not like we want to be friends with only this and be the enemy of that. But again, you know, there is a clip that I watched and I listened to this person talking, and the guy was like, you know, actually, you see, a country like Russia, their leadership, they just want a country that doesn't go in the same, I don't know how to explain that, but I hope you'll understand. Yeah. Anyway, my good people, I really hope you loved this particular video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.